morning, everyone. On today's segment, we will be exploring the role of federalism in environmental regulation. The federal government makes a case for its involvement in environmental regulation based on Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which reads, "The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States." The term general welfare can be interpreted as environmental issues, which gives the federal government the ability to regulate environmental concerns. Congress can therefore provide federal grants in the form of fiscal federalism to the states in order to fund state programs and projects to help improve environmental conditions. This allows the federal government to have conditions in which the states can use the money provided to them. Examples of this include categorical grants, project grants, and formula grants. The Constitution also states that Congress may make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States. This is also known as the Necessary and Proper Clause, and therefore gives the federal government more right to be involved in environmental regulation. Now let's turn it over to Carson, who will tell us about tensions among states and the federal government regarding environmental regulations.
Thanks, Lydia. Yes, throughout history, there has been much tension among states and the federal government as to who should have the power in the environmental regulation. Before 1970, environmental enforcement was considered the state's responsibility. However, in the 1960s, the environment was significantly worsening due to failures in the state enforcement of environmental laws and inadequate state programs. Therefore, the federal government had to step in the 1970s, and this shift in regulation was seen in the creation of the EPA and the passage of the Clean Air Act in 1970. This rapidly increased the federal regulatory role, in which meant the federal government became a dominant enforcer of environmental issues. This introduction of federal regulation of government issues therefore created tensions with the states that already had pre-existing programs. This debate on who should have the most power over environmental issues still remains to this day and continues to be a source of conflict in the U.S. Now to Michael for information regarding reasons in which the federal government would want to solve environmental issues.
Thanks, Carson, for that insight. Now for some reasons why the federal government would find it beneficial to be involved in environmental issues. By solving environmental issues, the U.S. government can improve the economy and living conditions. It's beneficial for the economy because if the environment is poor, then there will be less resources available to stimulate the economy. But if there are regulations set in place for society, it will continue to flourish. The EPA is important because it maintains the environment and protects it. The EPA also created the Superfund. Its purpose is to clean hazardous waste. By allowing the federal government to be a part of environmental regulation, large-scale programs like Superfund can benefit Americans, while states can issue smaller programs. The federal government involvement is very important to the environment. Now to Gurtej for some info on state objection to federal interference on environmental issues.
Thanks, Michael. When the issue of environmental concerns are at hand, both state and federal governments are permitted to have their own regulations. However, many states object because of the concurrent clause in the 10th Amendment. It reads, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people." Because of this, many states consider it a reserved power to be able to regulate environmental concerns and object to federal intervention. States also object to federal intervention when federal regulations have negative effects on their economy. For example, the EPA's regulation of coal mining led to a decline in employment and economic growth in West Virginia. Because of this, many states prefer to create their own programs that can target specific problems in their state. However, these state-managed programs can often become inefficient and mismanaged, as seen in the 1960s when the federal government had to step in and create the EPA and other environmentally conscious programs. Now to Anna for a discussion about environmental policy in today's political climate.
Thanks, Gurtej. Often states and many politicians don't only object because of economical concerns, but also because of political nuances. Typically today, many Republicans oppose more stringent environmental regulations and even consider controversial issues such as climate change to be a hoax or something that's not true, versus Democrats who typically push for greater environmental regulations. For example, many big oil companies don't talk about global warming and other issues because they're making money from exploiting the environment. Even politicians that rely on these companies for support neglect to address environmental issues, and this can be seen in the current administration. It's been just 7 months into Donald Trump's presidency, and several efforts have already been made to reverse the environmental initiatives of the Obama administration, particularly those that address the controversial issue of climate change. President Trump argues that these Obama administration programs were harming American businesses and killing American jobs. This Trump effort is largely to eliminate big government from major aspects of American life and find a balance between federal government and states in regard to environmental regulation. One of the greatest issues regarding Trump's handling of environmental concerns regards to Superfund, which is in the United States federal government program designed to fund the cleanup of sites contaminated with hazardous waste and other substances and pollutants. This initiative was established in 1980 as part of a larger environmental effort. Today, Trump's budget would dramatically cut funding for these toxic cleanup programs at both the federal and local levels. Currently, sites not on the national priority list or the NPL but need cleanup attention may be addressed by a state, tribal, or other federal agency program. The EPA will then check in with the state and tribal partners each year to ensure proper precautions are being taken. Subsequently, Trump's cutting of EPA funds, which is in the current proposed budget, would also cut super funding on both the federal and the state level.